to be with this community this morning, this loving, wise, powerful community known as Center for Spiritual Living Visalia. And so I'm going to just dive right in. It is an auspicious time for us right now. It's an auspicious time for everyone all over the world. And this is the last Sunday of the year 2020. And so I am kind of wrapping it all up and wrapping up our monthly theme of celebrating divine truth today. And today is all about making magic. And yet I'm not just going to leave us hanging there. I'm going to My goal and my desire this morning is for us to do a really deep dive into the practical application of what that means of making magic. Making magic is a joyful intention for life, and as we are bringing this year to a close, it's often thought of that as we embrace this new year that is coming up this week, that we take a look at our intentions and that we be even more specific around what that word means to us and what our personal intentions are and what our community intentions are and our global intentions. Yet making magic is kind of a joyful way of looking at that. And also to bring to mind that life absolutely does not create randomly. We are each, through our own understanding, to the degree we cooperate with it, we are using the law of mind to create a magical, joyful, enchanting life. So I thought we would start out with looking at the definition of magic. The definition of magic, according to Webster, is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Those words, mysterious or supernatural forces. Is it really possible to bring that into a perspective of practical application? And I'm here to tell you it is. That is really the teaching and the philosophy of the science of mind and spirit, is by having the power of influencing the courses of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. So we're going to dive into that this morning. So as I had mentioned, we really are bringing 2020, this year of 2020, to a close and embracing this next new year. And more poignantly than ever before, it is important to know and to remember that we are at choice. More so than ever before, we're at choice. So I have to admit to all of you, I feel a little bit like a coach that's kind of bringing the team together at a huddle and saying, all right, everybody, you've had a good year. You've had a good season. You've done really well. You've played really well. You've been smart. You've been intelligent. You've been wise. You've been connecting. You've been loving each other up. We've had some opportunities that have presented themselves through challenges, and now's the time to kind of brush those off of our shoulders and come together and group up and determine what this moving into the finals, the tournament season's going to look like. What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Because as I had said to you folks, this is a very poignant time where we are at choice. So here I am feeling a little bit like your coach today, and in these past few months. And I really see that as my job is to provide information, to really build you up and empower you and inspire you. And I'm thinking to myself, what is the best way of doing that with you this morning? And so it reminded me of the Wizard of Oz. Show of hands. How many of you know the movie and the story of the Wizard of Oz with Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the lion? And yep, I'm seeing your hands go up, all of that. So, the whole purpose and the meaning and the theme behind the Wizard of Oz is that we discovered that we have had that ability within us at all the time. That the Scarecrow had, the brains, and that the lion had the courage, and that the Tin Man had the heart, and that Dorothy could go home and fulfill that powerful desire that she had all along. And so when we think about this moment as me being the coach and saying, okay, we've had a great year, just brush off those challenges as we move into this final season of the finals, the playoffs, so to speak. I almost feel like you don't really need it because this community itself has portrayed and discovered and proven more so in this past year than any other time that the magic and the power and the wisdom and the choice has been with you all along. And you've really proven that. We are, Ernest Holmes says this so eloquently. We are so intimately connected with the universal creative God power that it is impossible to get away from it. Hence, we never have to wonder whether or not we're in touch with it. It is where we are and we are in it. It is in us, it is around us, and it is flowing through us. We're in it, we're always in it. Yet we are always at the very big power of choice. Very big power of choice. So making magic, I promised you that we were going to do a deep dive into the practical application of that and what it would mean for us in this very poignant and auspicious time in the life of this community, in the life of the world, in the life of each one of you individually as you're embracing this brand new next year and taking a look possibly at your intentions. I'm going to bring in this study done by this extremely wise doctor, Barbara L. Fredrickson. She has her PhD. She's a very distinguished professor in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Her name is Barbara Fredrickson, and she kind of started this organization called the Center for Positive Organizations. And I'm like, oh, I like the sound of that. It's a Center of Positive Organizations. And she has devoted her life work in studying positivity and emotions and the highest emotion that she feels and has studied, which is love. And so I am here to provide some practical application on our ability to make magic each and every moment of our lives, just like Ernest Holmes spoke about in that quote. Now, what Dr. Barbara has proven through doing a massive amount of research in her lab and having a lot of subjects in which she did these scientific experiments, this is what has been determined, that positive emotions in general, that it's good to be happy. Now, I know that's not news to any of you. That's not like groundbreaking, shattering news to you. By show of hands, how many of you knew that it's good to be happy, right? Good to be happy. Yet, life has its ups and downs. Life has its opportunities that present themselves as challenges. So, other than the fact that it just feels better to feel good, the idea around the studies are answering this question: are we different people in a measurable way between experiencing positive emotions and negative emotions? And I'm going to just let that sit here for a moment so you can ask yourself that question. Are we different people in a measurable way between experiencing positive emotions and negative emotions? And that's what Dr. Barbara set out to really prove in her studies. And this is what she discovered, that absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, yes, we are very, very different people, and not in trivial ways, not like smiling more. That's not what she showed. She's shown in the years of research that positive emotions such as joy and hope and optimism and humor, they broaden our outlook. And what that means in a scientific aspect is they literally broaden it. We have better peripheral vision. We literally can see more when we have a positive outlook on life. And that therefore, it makes us luckier. It's not like lucky people we're not karmically different than unlucky people. It's like lucky people, research shows, are more relaxed, we're more open. So that means we notice more. We notice the $20 bill when we're walking down the street. It's not like we're stumbling over more $20 bills that are in the street because God's smiling at us. It's because we're more open and relaxed. Our peripheral vision is wider and broader. And so we're able to take in more of the good. Now, does that sound familiar in regards to the science of mind and spirit teaching? That when we're more receptive to the good that already exists, like Dr. Ernest Holmes said in that quote, when we're more receptive to it, we're more able to see it and therefore experience it, therefore welcome it into our lives, embrace it in a greater way. It's kind of like we're when you're in a positive outlook of life, and you're creating more of a positive way of being. Not only do you expand your peripheral vision, and you're able to see things more because you're calm, and you're just more relaxed, you see more, but you're more willing to be adventurous. You're more willing to maybe take a different route on the way to the grocery store, or a different route on the way to work. And that means you're more likely to chat with a stranger who happens to know the CEO of a company that you're trying to sell a new product to. Oh my goodness, what a happy coincidence, some may say. Well, maybe, maybe not. It's just that she has proven through her research that when you have a positive outlook on life, positive people are luckier. It's in this broadened positive state of effectivity that allows us to have the experiences that bring even more greater good into our life in the first place. So because positive emotions actually make us luckier, they broaden our vision and receptivity. They actually broaden our working memory capacity. This is what else she found in her research. Our memory is better when we have positive outlooks, when we have a happier take on life. And that's a substrate of intelligence. So then she goes on to prove that not only is our memory better, but we actually become more intelligent when we're positive. So when we're in a good mood, we're smarter than when we're in a bad mood. How many of you could relate to that? I mean, how many of you can remember a time when you're in a bad mood and you pretty much, you stumble your toe, you run into the door, you probably knock something over. There's this chain of events that take place when you're in a bad mood that just seems to continue to create stuff to put you in a bad mood. Yet when we're in a good mood, it doesn't the same thing happen. We run into things and we experience things and we like light up in a way that seems to bring us more opportunities to be in a good mood. So we literally have more working memory facility, which means we're going to add faster. We're going to remember names better. We're going to remember that grocery list better. We're going to be able to be more organized in our life, and just overall have a more comfortable, happy, optimistic view of life. And so then she goes on to prove that it broadens our verbal fluency. We're going to be more articulate when we're in a good mood. And you may think, well, why is that important? When we're more articulate, when we're in a good mood, we're going to be able to explain things better, which improves our social interactions. And why would it be good for us to be able to explain things better? Well, we're creative beings. We're very innovative. We're making magic all the time. So I want to be able to articulate the magic that's within my heart and soul. I want to be able to articulate the beautiful purposes and intentions that light me up, and I'm passionate about, and that I'm on fire about. You bet I want to be more articulate about that. And I also want to be more open to hear you articulate your passions and your ideas. And so she goes on to prove all of this through research, and that it actually improves your social interactions. And none of these things are trivial effects of being in a positive mood state, because they broaden our receptivity to information. So when people are sharing information that could help us, we're more open to seeing a different point of view, and we're more open to seeing a different perspective. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, great, I can get behind that. That sounds great, but what really ultimately does that mean for us, especially today in your message? Well, what that ultimately means for us is that what we do with all of that then when we're in a positive state is that we can build our capacity. We can build our capacity for inviting good, being the source behind that good, being the source behind that creativity and solutions and possibilities. We become more talented and more resourceful, more resilient, more healthy, all from positive emotions. And so she goes on to then prove this broaden and build therapy. She actually named it broaden and build therapy. We broaden and build our life. We broaden and build when we can show up and offer our gifts to the world. We broaden and build the health and vitality of our family, of our personal lives, our family, our community, and therefore the world. You know, negative thoughts create negative emotions and narrows our perceptions. It narrows our minds, kind of blinds us, literally blinds us to typically any possible solutions, anything outside of what we're kind of focused on in our negative thoughts. And literally our ability to think a new thought kind of goes away, and then we don't feel lucky. Our luck kind of runs out, our resourcefulness, our newness, it's just narrow, narrow, narrow. So she developed this idea that when we're positive, it broadens and builds our life, and it broadens and builds the lives of others. It broadens and builds our community. And so she goes on to say the highest emotion in all of this positivity is love. The highest emotion. And the reason why that's so important is that the most important and valued thing in the world is connection. So how many of you, take a moment to think about that, would agree with that? Think about your life and think about when times when you're connecting with people, when you're connecting in a really healthy way that's very positive, those connections, those relationships, the ability to share and feel love and to experience love, it broadens and it's powerful and it's exciting and it's passionate. And it really does manifest really cool stuff in our lives. It's not that we're luckier, it's that we're creating and making that magic just by making a choice. Because, folks, what it really comes down to at all times is that power of choice. Dr. Ernest Holmes says it best. We must stand guard the portals of our mind. We must stand guard the portals of our mind and be really intentional about the purpose of what we're about. So every single day, every single morning, how many of us have our very first thought of what is my purpose? Let me get really clear in this moment what my purpose is so that I may only entertain those thoughts. I may only speak those words. I may only take in and pay attention to and directly invest my energy into that which totally supports my purpose. And folks, my purpose is love. My purpose is connection. My purpose is to support this, this build and grow, this build and prosper, this broaden and widen positive energy that then would allow for the continuation and expansion of peace, of recognizing and realizing that we're all one. And that then therefore causes us to make decisions that support our oneness. It then takes away our desire to invest energy in creating separateness or to prove or provide anything is wrong or even right. It kind of takes away judgment totally. If we were to remove right and wrong or um, or good or bad, just imagine how we can fully, as humans, as a species, step more fully into experiencing and expressing this idea of oneness. So this core of what love is, it allows for the discussion of all things that follow that. It allows for respectful right action. It can and should follow from a state of love. At its core, love is an emotion. And it's that emotion that allows these magical moments of connectivity and then therefore creativity. And I'm not talking about just the folks that you've decided to enter into committed relationships with or intimate romantic relationships with. I'm talking about connections that happen all the time. That's what we're making magic with. Like the store clerk where you're interacting with them and you're just beaming with love and connection, and you mention something about their service, their great service, or thanking them for going that extra mile when you needed a question answered, and they flash that smile back to you. In that interchange, you're connecting, You're connecting on that love making magic soul level. And it creates even more happiness and optimism. You know, love holds the key to improving our mental and physical health, as well as lengthening our lives. Dr. Barbara, in her research from her own lab, redefines love not as a stable thing that never changes, but it's something that are these micro moments of connection between people, even strangers, because as we know in our teaching, there are no strangers, there are no them, and there are no other, that we are connected completely and totally with each other. And so in knowing that all of this, we welcome in this idea and then put it to practical application in our life, that we truly make magic all the time. And we are totally at choice at what that looks like, what that feels like, how deep and broaden our lives can show up in doing all of these things. Dr. Gary Simmons, a retired Unity minister, says this: are your observations and perceptions informed by your wholeness and worth, or by your shadow qualities? That's a good question to ask. Are your observations and perceptions informed by your wholeness and your worth, or by your shadow qualities? You know, I want my life to broaden and deepen with all of these understandings and the scientific findings of how positivity really does impact and affect our lives individually and collectively. And so you may think to yourself, okay, great. So take on the next step, Reverend Julie. Take us to the next part. This is all great to know. So how are we applying it in this moment? Well, there's lots of ways to apply it at this moment. I have I've heard a lot of things being said about the year 2020. And I'm sure you have too. Like, it's been the worst year, or it's just been horrible, or it's handed out handed out more grief and more messes than not. Now, we could actually put that to the test and do a little bit of a survey. You know, is that really true? I know that we've been faced as a species with some challenges this year, yet what about the magic? Have there been magical moments in this year? Have there been moments of connectivity? Have there been moments of a deeper understanding of what lies within you and what you're all about in relation to your connection to the divine? And then have there been moments of deep, profound gratitude for what you are and what you have, and for those connections that we have and that we share, and for the relationships that we have, and for our family and for our community? I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, I have felt deeper gratitude this year than I have ever felt in my entire life. That is a gift. That is a gift that I am not willing to take lightly. I'm not willing to label this year as bad just because of some of these challenges that have brought up them to make greater opportunities with. I won't do it, because what this year has brought me is a very deep dive of introspection and a very real understanding of the power of my connection to the divine. And folks, that's priceless. That's absolutely priceless. And I would imagine that if we had the time and we were able to speak into this moment right now, I bet each and every one of you could give at least one, if not 10 examples of how this year has definitely moved and deepened you in some way. And so we're down to a moment of choice, as always, because we are in every moment of our lives. The idea of the lesson today is to welcome that which we've been preparing for. We are ever mindful that we get to get clear about what we are about, and we leave the how up to spirit. If the path I want you to know is unlikely. It's unlikely to have magic in it if it's always easy. The magical moments come with synchronicity and wisdom and clarity and peace. And usually it's our challenges that provide us with the opportunity to become more mindful, to become zoom right in the moment, because we know that that's where the power lies, right, folks? There is no power anywhere else except for this moment. And there's really nothing better than a little mini occurrence to bring us boom really clear and into the moment, to bring us very deeply and mindfully in the present moment. And so mindful daily reflection of what new ways love and joy and peace show up for us allows us to be more and more receptive to the infinite divine truth that is ever present and awaiting our recognition of it. The idea and the introduction and the invitation is always to open the door of your mind and heart, to open the door and welcome the good, to open the door and say yes to life. And no one ever said it was going to be easy, but I'm here to tell you that that's our calling. It's our calling that Dr. Ernest Holmes said in the first quote that I shared with you, and I'm going to read it again. We are so intimately connected with the universal creative God power that it is impossible to get away from it. Hence, we never have to wonder whether or not we are in touch with it. It is where we are, and we are in it. It is in us. It is all around us, and it is flowing through us. So there's nothing in particular you need to do or know where you need to be to have that magic that's already within you, that you get to make a choice to broaden and deepen your life and the lives of all of those around you and your community and your connection. And so in kind of wrapping this up, then the last part of what this means for us is we get to acknowledge via our choice in this very moment whether life is good or not, whether we're willing to embrace the God that shows up in this moment. And folks, it's unlimited. It's priceless. It's available at all times. And we are at choice. And we're at choice to say yes. We're at choice to open the door of our mind and our heart. We're at choice to recognize and realize the power, the infinite power and wisdom and guidance that already dwells within each one of you. You have proven as a community that it already exists, and you have no problem showing up and being it. And so there isn't any circumstance or situation that can take that away from you. You are it. You are the expression of divine power, of good, of being at choice and being responsible for that. You're already self-reliant in absolutely every aspect and way that you may desire. So we get to pause and celebrate that in this moment. We get to pause and decide at choice point, this year was blank. This moment is blank. I am blank. You all get to fill in the blanks. And I invite you to fill in the blanks with that which you know better than you know anything else. Because remember, the monthly theme is celebrating the divine truth. I invite you to fill in the blanks with what you know to be the divine truth, the ultimate divine truth. And so our affirmation for today is this. Our affirmation for today, let me get to it. Hold on. Scrolling down on my screen here that's not all the way up, because I want to be able to see your faces too. The affirmation for today is I am making magic every time I align with the power, presence, and authority of divine truth in me. Now I'm going to read that again because there's a whole lot of wisdom in this one sentence. I am making magic every time I align with the power, presence, and authority of divine truth in me. This divine truth is not in somebody else. It's not in some other book. It's not in some other lecture or message. Where is that divine truth? I ask you, where is it? It's within you. And you know that it's within you. You know that. And so this year has presented us with a beautifully engraved invitation. this beautiful engraved invitation comes to us and says, let's get real clear. Let's get real clear where your truth lies. Let's get real clear with what your purpose is. Because clarity, my folks, is what brings that magic. It's what we use to make that magic. You know, I know I'm coming close on my time, but I'd like to tell you a funny story that kind of brings that home. And please, I can see Sheila. So Sheila, wave your hand if I've already told this story. I can't remember if I told it to you all or not. But a few years ago, you know, my husband, Tony Lobato, has worked for the Science of Mind magazine for 8 years, for the past 8 years. He's the advertising sales coordinator for the magazine. And years ago, he used to go to this advertising conference every year. So, Sheila, wave your hand if I've told this story. Have I told this story? So, at this conference, all of these vendors, you know, they want you to come and visit their table. So they all do these raffles. And if you come and visit their table and put your business card in the thing, they do a big drawing near the end of the conference. And almost every one of the vendors was giving, they all got together and decided what they were going to give away as prizes. And they were all giving away iPads. Now, an iPad's a pretty nice prize to win. That's a pretty good thing to win. And so my husband had visited all the vendor tables and put his business card in all of the jars. And there was a bunch of vendors. So there was a bunch of iPads being given away. And they would say, okay, we're, you know, vendor, whatever is giving away the next prize. And we're getting ready to draw the name. And he said at the conference, he would say to himself, say my name, say my name, say my name, say my name, say my name. He was like, say my name, say my name, say my name. And sure enough, one of the last drawings called out Tony Lobato. And he was like, yes, I want an iPad. And he goes up to the vendor table, and the vendor table was from Wisconsin. And their prize was not an iPad. It was a large cheese head. It was a very large cheese head, which is, I guess, what the fans in that state wear when they're supporting their sporting teams. And my husband is a Colorado boy, and he is a diehard Denver Broncos fan. So to him, getting a cheese head was not exactly what you'd say ideal. So everybody else gave out iPads, but he got a cheese head. So let's think about what the moral of that story is, right? It's good to be clear, really good to be clear, because he just wanted him to say his name, right? Call my name, call my name, call my name. They did call his name, and he got a cheese head. So the next year, he's at the same conference, same conference. All these vendors are giving away iPads, and he's like, "Oh God, I know that if I win this year, I'm getting an iPad." And so I am not kidding. I'm not making this up. So here it comes down to drawing the names and giving out the prizes, and it's coming close to the end, and he's doing the same exact thing. Call my name, call my name, call my name. And sure enough, they called his name. And I will give you a second to guess which vendor called his name. The vendor from Wisconsin, and he got another cheesehead. So basically, the real moral to this story is life is a spiral, folks. And even when we come to that moment of deep realization of the truth, you know, that divine truth that is within us always, there's this part of application on it too. You know, it spirals and it comes back around and it comes back around and it comes back around. So we have this also engraved invitation to not only know the truth and know that it lies within us, but we're given an invitation to be super clear about what it is too. You know, opportunities can present themselves, and just like the opportunity for them to call his name was great, but he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't want a cheesehead, he wanted an iPad. So do you see how it's really powerful and important to be really clear about your purpose and what it is that you're about, your purpose and what you want? And the idea around that is to not waffle, is to not get off course. It's to stay on course, knowing that that divine truth lies within you, knowing that it is here for us to tap into at any moment. There's nothing special we need to do to make this magic in our life. We already have it within us. The affirmation says, I am making magic every time I align with the power, the presence, and the authority of divine truth in me. I am making magic every time I align with the power, the presence, and the authority of divine truth in me. And so it is. Thank you all.